we got to talk about the player we don't want to talk about anymore. No, nothing personal. It's just been months of talking about a player who isn't the best player on the team. Brandon Aiyuk. I'm officially suffering from Aiyuk fatigue.
Me too. Yeah. I'm done. And the reason why I'm done is because there's really nothing to talk about without being seen as just trying to like build a take that doesn't exist. Everything that's out there that could be out there that we're ever going to find out until later on is already out there. We know the floor of what Brandon Aiyuk wants. We know what the ballpark of what he's asking for. We also know how he feels about it. He's been very clear about letting us know how he feels about it. And we also have what the Niners have said. But more importantly than all of that, you know what we also have? We have the past. We have the trends of other players that have come before Brandon Aiyuk that have gotten paid or have not gotten paid. And we can see that the common denominator with everyone that has gotten paid is, number one, if you are not the reason why the 49ers win, if you can't lead the team and be that reason, then you are essentially a role player. And I understand that if you link Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Trent Williams, and you go 1 of 1, sure, they could all compete. They could all compete on a team, but they wouldn't win. They wouldn't be in a position where they are now. And I think that's the main point. The main point is, go ahead, Grant.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like it's business, and he's allowed to ask for what he wants. Like Christian McCaffrey just made a business move and got the most lucrative contract in running back history. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Aiyuk, and I'm not like frustrated with him for holding out for what he wants. But it's like he kind of went the Deebo Samuel route of making certain things public, and every couple of weeks he puts something on social media that's kind of cryptic, and you don't know what it means. And he really wants to air out his grievances. And I'd take it a step further. He kind of almost wants to be seen as a victim, which is like hard to relate to. It's like, hey, do whatever business you want to do, but am I supposed to sit here and be like, damn it, Brandon Aiyuk is being disrespected by the 49ers because they only want to give him $28 million and he wants 30. Like, it's not fair. I can't. I hope he gets what he wants, and I hope the Niners get what they want, and I hope I get what I want.
Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. You know, it's hard to, I mean, right now he's the woman on the corner with a ham under her arm crying for a loaf of bread. Like, it's like, dude, it's like, no, you have enough. You're not going to get us to lament over why you can't become more of a millionaire. That's not something that the everyday man is going to care about, or woman for that matter. One thing that I've also noticed is that I just feel like also Brandon Aiyuk is kind of missing the plot here and how this team is built. I feel like for him to stand on market rate money value on this team would almost say, like, number one, you're overvaluing your skill set to the success of this team, or two, you feel like your skill set should be elevated. And everybody knows that's not up to any player on this team. That's up to Kyle Shanahan on who gets elevated as being a leader on this team and how they get utilized, especially on the field. I just feel like he's on a losing battle. And I hope that they find middle ground, but it is time to just, that situation is what it is. And like, that's what winning franchises do, quite honestly. I could think about, just put yourself in Kansas City's shoes as a fan 2 to 3 years ago when Tyreek Hill was going through his back and forth with the Chiefs. And I'm sure there were probably people that were standing on the table for Tyreek Hill saying, like, hey, man, get him paid. And the Chiefs stood up and they understood what they had in a team and they moved on and they were better for it. So, I mean, it would be horrible to lose Brandon Aiyuk because of what he brings, but he does fit inside of a skill set that can be replicated.
Well, the Niners culture is one of selflessness, right? It's like, if you want to get the ball, you got to block. You got to understand it's a run first team. You got to understand there's a lot of weapons and they got to share the ball. And sometimes you'll be the man and sometimes you won't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the culture. And my
Mm-hmm.
question to you is, of the 49ers weapons on offense, and they have a lot, who's the biggest diva if you had to pick one?
Debo.
I disagree. I'd say it's Aiyuk. I mean, Ayuk's the one who complains about targets and how much he wants. I mean, Debo, he was upset about the process, but since he's gotten paid, he seems happy. He loves Kyle. He doesn't complain. Now he does get a fair amount of targets, but frankly, Ayuk got more than him this year. Aiyuk is constantly in a grievance state. Like, I'm worth $30 million a year. I don't get enough targets. I'm the fourth option in a run first team. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's the one that you see when he doesn't get targeted, when he's open on the field, he jumps up and down, he stamps his feet. And this is when he's 23, 24 on a rookie deal. I'm curious to see what he would be like on this team, making $30 million a year after a loss when he gets 5 targets.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. And that makes perfect sense. And we mentioned this in our pre-show. You mentioned this to me, and I'm going to push back. I don't agree with that.
Okay, I mean, my stance, push. Let's go. Right here.
You're not.
Uh-huh.
All right. So really, the reason why I'm pushing back is that I don't see that from Brandon Aiyuk. And I feel like the reason why I don't see that is going to marry into one of the topics later on in the show. But I do believe that Brandon Aiyuk has done the work. I feel like he's been there on all of the days when you have to show up. I feel like Brandon Aiyuk has had many mentees. He's passed it down. He's not only done what he's supposed to do, but it's a different ball game when you do what you're supposed to do in the organization and you become so much of a shining example that you start having other players up under you, right? Who themselves have emerged on the team, right? It's no mistake that Diamador Lenore, when he was cutting his teeth as a pro, was under Brandon Aiyuk's tutelage, and they used to go back and forth all the time. And just look at what Diamador Lenore is compared to what he is when he started being a mentee to Brandon Aiyuk. One thing that I'll also say is that you could talk about his 5 targets, but in between all of those other 5 targets that he doesn't get perfectly, Brandon Aiyuk has been through 3 different quarterbacks since he's been here. That's something that quote unquote quasi number 1 receivers don't have to put up with, especially when it's time for them to get paid. They're going to want to make sure, like, I need to get my money, on top of the fact that even if he is going through multiple quarterbacks that he's been through all this time, he's on a running football team. And he's done his weight being one of the best blockers on this team. And he's not even the number 1 receiving option on this team. And he's one of the best blockers. So he has a gripe. He does. He's just going about it the wrong way, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I guess he has a gripe. I mean, he wants to be paid at the top of the market. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. It's just he seems like his stance is he doesn't want to make any concessions, which is kind of scary. I mean, from a wide receiver, because wide receiver is the diva position, and you don't really know who wide receivers are until they get paid. Like, let me name you 2 wide receivers who were awfully good teammates when they were young and they were complementary options.
Okay,
Antonio Brown and T.O. Those guys were winning players. I'm not saying Aiyuk is T.O. or Antonio Brown, but go back and look how they talked, how they moved when they were 24, 25, and Jerry Rice was on the team, Mike Wallace was on the team, Ben Roethlisberger was on the team. Eventually, they took over, and those 2 went kind of wacko. But work ethic was never an issue for Antonio Brown or Terrell Owens. I mean, they did everything right. They just were so good that they couldn't understand not getting 15 targets a game. It just didn't make sense to them. And they would talk about it because they were the highest paid player in the team. I'm not saying Ike's going to go that far, but that's what we always got to wonder about with a wide receiver. Like, what are you going to really be like when you're making $30 million a year? That's full expression of your ego will come out.
Right. I understand that. And that can rear its ugly head at different times during the league. I just don't think that the NFL is necessarily built that way. Some of the teams that do traditionally go the old pass scheme route where they've got the number 1 diva receiver, you kind of swim in that soup and understand that he is the number 1 option and the target. And possibly you either have a quarterback that's supposed to get him the ball. I just don't think that that's that situation here. And that's why I also believe that BA is is really kind of over his skis with the type of money that he's trying to garner. We just don't do that here. That's not our process. Right. That's not how we try to win. That's not how we collectively attack football games. And I think that for BA to get paid the money that he wants, he's not asking for his money. And I think that's the gap. He's not asking for his money. What that type of money signifies is you telling Kyle Shanahan that you want him to change his scheme.
Yep.
That's what you're saying.
That he's the top dog on the team now, not McCaffrey.
That's what that money signifies. And
the offense goes through me now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100%, Grant. Like, sometimes you can say things without saying it. You know what I mean? And asking for that type of money, and that's where Brandon Aiyuk has tons of great people around him, I assume. So I'm not here to say that he doesn't. But you do have to ask, is there somebody around BA that's saying, hey, there's a difference between what you want in the market and there's a difference between what you want juxtaposed to how your team is built? And when you say that you don't care about how your team is built and you want your market rate, and you're standing on business to the point where you're willing to create a logjam in the process of getting ready for the next season, what you're essentially doing is challenging the organization. And in this context of the 49ers, you're challenging Kyle Shanahan. And that's just, you're never going to win doing that. So
because it really does feel like what Aiyuk is saying is like, it's not just that I want to be paid what I'm owed. It's I want to be acknowledged. I took a back seat for years here. Okay. I took a back seat to Debo, to Kittle, to McCaffrey. Not anymore. I want to be paid and I want to be acknowledged as the primary option here. That everything goes through me. And the Niners are like, no.
Yeah. It never went through you. So what are we doing now? And that to go to another standpoint is when you go on coaching, when you go to contract negotiations, right? It's not for what you've done. It's for what you're gonna do. When you go sign your lease at your apartment building, okay, they don't care about how long you lived there in the past, okay? They don't care about all of the money that you paid on time and how you stayed quiet throughout the night and you were a good neighbor. No. That's the reason why we didn't kick you out. That's the reason why you're here now, possibly signing a new lease. What we're here to talk about is what you're going to do in the future. And my opinion is that sometimes players kind of get into negotiations and they want to start reminiscing. And it's like, look what I did. And it's like, no. Listen, brother, you wouldn't even be here right now if we weren't feeling okay with what you did. Let's talk about where you fit in the future. And I think that's the conversation that the Niners have been trying to have with BA for a while now.
Yeah. And it's like, is he better than Ricky Pearsall? Hell yeah. Is he a top 10 wide receiver in the league? Hell yeah. But if he needs this type of acknowledgement, he's not going to get it from the 49ers.
Right.
And he needs to make a decision. He's at a crossroads in his life. He's a young man. He's 26 years old. What do you want? Do you want the most possible individual accolades, or do you want team success?
Right.
It's a fair question to ask. And maybe he says, you know what? We're not going to win a Super Bowl here under Kyle Shanahan. He won't get me the ball. I don't have confidence in him. Send me somewhere else. And you know what? That's a perfectly fine business decision. But he's got to work that out.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to be able to work that out. He's got to be able to speak up and talk plainly. You're not going to get millions of dollars communicating through social media. It just doesn't work that way. And for me,
I wish it did.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we'd be rich. But my opinion on it is that BA has shot himself in the foot in certain areas because the posturing, the talking online, letting fans know how he feels. And it's not just how he feels, but that he's not happy, right? He could have let us know he's happy, but it's the fact that you chose to let that out. What happens is that you muddy the water now, BA. Like, you've lost public opinion, right? You can't sit here and talk about trying to get paid millions of dollars to the guy who's getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning to go punch it in. It doesn't work that way. All right. And what happens is that now the conversation out here in the Twitter sphere or the fans' perspective isn't about your play, but it's how you've been talking, because your last tape is your best tape. So your last tape wasn't your best tape.
Real quick, just like McCaffrey just got an extension. What did he say on social media? Jawan Jennings just got an extension. What did he say on social media? Cole McKivitz. I mean, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. Like, you don't have to do this with the 49ers, because what you're doing is sort of making them look bad. Like, oh, they don't take care of their players. Well, frankly, they do.
Yeah, that's not true. Yeah.
So why are you doing that? You'd have more support, and you'd have a better shot at getting what you want if you just were a little more professional, which is crazy because your reputation, Brandon, is you're the professional one. You're the guy who keeps his head down and does all the work. Why would you mess with that? That's the reputation you want.
Yeah, and he's built it, Grant, right? Yeah. He's built it. It takes a lot of hard work to build reputation in the NFL, but it takes nothing to kill it. And that's just not the NFL, that's life. And for me, Brandon has done so much work, from being in the doghouse with Kyle to becoming a conscientious player, becoming one of the best blockers, not the best blocking receiver, but one of the best blockers on the team. I mean, really. And then you hear all of the anecdotal stories from you and Larry and the people in the building about how BA is always around. Hey, it's off season. Nobody's around, but BA's there, right?
And how he practices.
Going out to practice. Like, there's young players that are going back and forth with BA. And it's just like all of those great stories, all of those.
I mean, he doesn't just compete in practice. He fights in practice, which is like, maybe that's overdoing it, but it just kind of shows you how serious he takes it.
Yeah. I mean, he fights in Super Bowls.
Right.
So
practice how you play. Practice how you play.
So, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's done himself a disservice in just how he's, just like the public relations side of it. You know, the optics haven't been good. And right now, if you want to just look at, like, if you had to put a headline over all of this, right, what would it be? Disgruntled 49ers receiver wants best money in the market. Pending ever, right? And that's the story. And he
created that.
Yeah, that's where, in a way, somebody on his team needs to step back and see the forest through the trees and say, hey, look, guys, optically, we look like shit. Like, we need to clean this up. And to be honest with you, I kind of feel like it's hurting us at the negotiation table, because really, the Niners know. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll say this. The Niners, this is the thing. The Niners already know exactly how much they're willing to pay BA. They're just trying to have the conversation to get him close enough there or get him below it. The issue is that the Niners, they're thinking about this the way any smart business organization or individual would, which is, we got multiple people to please here. It's not just you, BA. We got to keep our fan base happy. If and when we move on from you, we got to be able to deal with that PR situation, and we've got to be able to supplant you, which is why we got Ricky Pearsall to come in here, because we anticipated this happening. So with BA, I just feel like he's missing the plot from a standpoint of, is that the Niners, he's giving the Niners culpable deniability when it's time for them to move on. It's going to be like, look at how we acted during this whole thing, man. We can't deal with this. We tried to get BA to the table. What do you want us to do? So this is really, the ball's in his court to get this done.
Well, you saw what McCaffrey said after he signed his extension. He made it real clear to say, like, he was not upset with the team. He was like, so they were like, well, why'd you stay away from OTAs? He was like, it's business. It's just the business side. Like, but the Niners were great and my side were great, and we never got, it never got acrimonious or whatever. He made it because he doesn't want to be seen as disgruntled running back. He could have been real disgruntled. He could have been real freaking pissed off. But that's none of our business. In fact, that's just business. And McCaffrey's savvy enough to create his own narrative and protect his own image. That's all it is, image and narrative. Yeah. And it matters. And frankly, Brandon's done a terrible job.
Yeah, he has.
Just a terrible job.
I agree. And you would have thought, by his playing style, sometimes to, Brandon has this doing work mentality. Like, just let me go do my work, and it's surprising how you put a mic in front of these guys or a Twitter account and they just kind of show you how sensitive they can be.
You know when I knew he was in trouble? And then we'll move on.
Go ahead.
When Debo said he was helping him, giving him advice, I was like, it's over. Brandon, just don't answer the phone. He's going to give you the wrong advice. And he has.
Bro. Yeah.
You should have been talking to everyone but Debo, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's the rich kid saying, you know what that is? That's the rich kid taking the kid from the hood out and saying, dude, we can steal anything in this store, bro. It's cool, bro. We'll be fine, bro. Stop.
I don't know what you're talking about.